In this session, we're going to create a model for conversation and message. So first, open your terminal and create the conversation model. And we say sender ID would be integer. Recipient ID would be integer as well. And then create the message model. So for the message, we're going to say content will be text, conversation references, and user references. And then you run rec db migrate. In our project folder, open F, models, and conversation. Now here, because a conversation need to reference to a sender and recipient, then instead of saying belong to user, we're going to declare like this. We're going to say belong to sender, and this one is a foreign key of the sender ID, and we're going to say class name should be user. And we're going to do the same thing for the recipient. So here we got the recipient. By doing this, we tell Rails that, hey, both of the sender ID and recipient ID are foreign key, and they comes from the user model. Next, we need to say this conversation has many messages, and the dependent will be destroyed. So a conversation has many messages, and that means if we delete a conversation, you also delete all of the messages belong to this conversation. In this project, we're not doing that, but I just want to give you an idea of how it should be connected. Now next, we also want to make sure that a pair of sender ID and recipient ID should be unique, so that we have a unique conversation between two specific users. So basically, the conversation between sender A and recipient B is essentially the same as conversation between sender B and recipient A. Now we need to set the validate uniquest. So here we're going to say sender ID, and the scope should be recipient ID. So by doing that, we make sure the pair of sender ID and recipient ID should be unique. Moving on, we need to create two new scopes for our conversation. So I'm going to say scope, let's say involving user. Alright, so we create a new thing. We can say where conversations dot sender ID equal first question mark, or conversation dot recipient ID equals second mark. And for the first second mark, we say user.id. For the second, we say user ID. Now we also need to create another scope. Let's say for between. And here we're going to pass the sender ID and the recipient ID. And here we're going to say where conversation.sender ID equal question mark, and also conversation dot recipient ID equal question mark. Now here we're going to say R, and I'm going to copy exactly this one and paste into here. Okay, now we're going to pass first is the sender ID, recipient ID, and then recipient ID, sender ID. Okay, so the first scope, which is this one, we have to retrieve all the conversation of the current logged in user. And the second scope, which is this one, we'll have to check if a conversation exists between any given two users before we create the conversation. So basically, what this does is just make sure that we have only one conversation between a sender and recipient. So no matter who is sender or who is recipient, just need to make sure that unique between two given user. That's it. In Rails, scoping allows you to specify commonly used queries, which can be referenced at method calls on model. This is a cool feature of Rails, so let me explain how it works. Now, for instance, let's say the scope, okay, so it's equivalent to this dot involving, and we're going to pass user, right? And the rest should be the same, exactly the same. Okay, so this one is equivalent to this. Just want to make sure that you understand how it works. So essentially, it's just like the method that you can call like this. Now, involving here is not a keyword, so you can name it to whatever you want. And also, later on in the controller, we're going to say conversation dot involving. So sorry, this one must not see, it should be self. Alright, so in controller you can call involving, alright, and going to pass the current user. So basically what it does in the controller is going to retrieve all the conversation belong to this current user or involving to this current user. So now you understand how this works. Okay, so we're done with the conversation model. Now open the message model. So under F, model and message. As you can see, Rails just automatically set this up for us. We now need to validate the presence of content field as well as the conversation ID and user ID. So we're going to do validate presence of content. So make sure content is not null, and also make sure the conversation ID is there and the user ID is there as well. Alright. Now here we're going to create a new method to reformat the message time to the format that we want. So I'm going to say def message time, and here we got created at dot string f time. So the format that we want to is %v. Save it. Cool, so we're just done with the model session. In the next video, we're going to do with the controller session, and I'll see you then.